Go ahead and get started. Everybody hear me? My name's Daniel Henderson. I work here at the college, and one of the things I do is invite businesses and business people, sometimes alumni from Keene State, to come and talk about what they do and help you to think about what you might want to do after college. This event specifically has been set up for that purpose. These are all students that went to Keene State, all alumni who went to Keene State. They work in different businesses, they majored in different things, and they're going to tell you about, we're going to have a conversation really about their experience of thinking through what they want to do after college, what they did to get there. Everybody's going to have a very different story. You'll all have different stories by the time you graduate, and you're probably thinking about that now. You're here, so you're obviously thinking about it. And I'm really intending this to be, as much as possible, a conversation that includes not only the 5 alums who are here, but also you, because this is a great time to ask questions. The career fair is coming up on March 22nd over in the rec gym in the gymnasium. And the day before that, Academic and Career Advising is hosting a resume writing event, Resumania. You probably all, has everybody heard of that? Has everybody heard of Resumania? Good. That's going to be over in Rhodes Hall from noon to
5 on Tuesday
noon to
and
5.
Wednesday.
And we have staff here from Academic and Career Advising right here in the front row. So they are great resources for you to help think about what you're going to do, to set up things like a LinkedIn page, which is a terrific thing to do, to write your resume, to think about cover letters, and just to think about the whole process of where you want to find your place in the world after Keene State. So, having set the stage a little bit, I want to just ask each of our alumni here to introduce themselves and to tell you what their name is, where they work, what their business does or what their organization does, very briefly, and what their role is there. So if we can start with
Yeah, I'm Alex Cucci. I graduated in 2012 with a degree in film studies, and I'm an assistant editor at Florentine Films, and we specialize in making historical documentaries.
My name is Cameron Cummings. I work at Red River Computer Company. I'm an inside sales account manager supporting the Navy and Marine Corps. We're basically I would say, IT transformation company as well as a sales company. We have many contract vehicles which we sell to the government, and we're about 85% federal and 15. I'm all set. I'm good.
Okay. I'm Melissa Binder. I'm the supervisor of the Learning and Development team at CNS Wholesale Grocers. CNS is the largest grocery wholesaler in the United States, and basically it's a fancy way of saying we're in the supply chain business. So we move product, mostly groceries, from the manufacturing community to stores, grocery stores.
Hi everyone, I'm Jeff Bradley, class of 2014. I'm the Director of Residential Life at the Greenwood School. It's an all-boys boarding school, grades 6 through 12, with students with learning differences.
Hi, I'm Brendan Cameron. I'm also from CNS, and I graduated last May, and I work in procurement, which is like buying, and I'm a financial analyst.
Thank you very much. So, I'm going to ask these folks to go back to when they were students here at Keene State, and to each to tell us a little bit of their story about what they were thinking about when they were here and what they did in order to prepare for and do a job search, and how they conducted that whole process from concept to completion. I think if you could each spend maybe 5 minutes on that, if that's all right. So you want to start, Alex?
Sure. Start just from graduating.
I'd say start
Yeah.
from, no, I'd say start from when you were a student. When did you start to think about what you wanted to do after college? And you know, and I know it's different for everybody, and I can tell you my story. It like started after college, but yeah, yeah, just that.
So I think for me, being in film is a very like competitive industry, and I always saw myself as a student either having to move to New York or LA, but I really had no idea where I was going to end up. And then after graduating, I really still kind of had no idea and was kind of just still working in town. Wasn't really sure, and then my dad met a man named Dan White, and he started talking to my dad, and basically he found out what I was going to school for, what I graduated with, and told me to apply for an internship at Florentine. So I applied for the internship, and I got denied in the summer. I applied again for the fall, and I got denied a second time. But then I finally applied a third time and got a letter of recommendation from Larry Benequist, who's a professor here. And then they finally accepted me in December. So graduated in May. I actually had a few courses to finish up over that summer. And then I got an internship unpaid. It was like 20 hours, 25 hours a week, I would say. And I did that for 6 months, no pay at all. And then they finally offered me a position. So for me, it was kind of like a lot of who you know, a little bit of luck. Because I know a lot of people really, really struggle to find jobs in film, and it's not very easy. So I kind of had the skill and the ability, but also was able to kind of fall right into the perfect situation at the right time. Because I do know a lot of people who try to get a job there, and they're really aggressive about it, and it doesn't work out because we're very small. We have about 25 employees, and that's in New Hampshire and New York. So it was a lot of confusion on my part trying to figure out where to go, but it worked out.
So if you could do it again,
Yeah.
if you were a freshman in college, knowing what you know now, what would you do anything differently?
I would probably, because when I was in school, I didn't do any internships. I didn't even know about Florentine. It's in Walpole. It's only 20 miles north of Keene. I wish I had done a little bit more research. I also wish I knew a little bit more. Then maybe I wouldn't be in the predicament of getting out of school and not really knowing where I was going to go for the first 6 months. But like I said, luckily it kind of worked out for me.
Thanks. How many of you all have been to more of these Career Speaker Series events? So about a month and a half ago, Florentine Films was here. Dan White, who hired Alex, was here talking about what they do. They're up in Walpole, half an hour away. Different companies come almost every Tuesday night, so it is a great way to start to find out about what's out there. In addition to the career fair, these are ongoing events that I set up almost every Tuesday. So, Cameron, you want to tell us your story?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. So a big part of how I succeeded in my later years of college was kind of just listening to people. Like, for example, like I always heard that you always should get an internship. That was like the key. And when I was a junior, I was sitting at a dinner table with my friend and his parents, and his mom was a director of operations. And she said, if you ever want an internship, just let me know. And when I went home, I thought, like, hey, maybe I should say yes to this. This is probably a good idea. I ended up doing so, and for the next year, I was a supply chain intern at a medical manufacturing company. Another good example of taking advice, last year, probably coming up on the same career fair that's coming up. I don't know if it's annual, but I was sitting in class with one of my I call him a friend, but he was my professor, Dr. Cusack, and he told me I should, career fair is in 3 hours, you should go. And I was like, Instead of going and hang out with my friends playing video games, I was like, hey, that's probably a good idea. So I went there 3 hours later, just, got on some nice clothes and met my boss, and he hired me. Before I actually got hired, I met them. I was speaking with one of my professors, that's another good idea. If you have, a good relationship with one of your professors, you should definitely ask them to help you get you jobs, because they're here for a reason. And I've met with multiple professors, asking for help, and you can't be afraid to ask for help. You're in that situation. There's, kind of the real deal. So he said he actually met with the same people I met with, which is now my boss, and he kind of sold me, and I guess I made a good impression on them. So a couple of months later, I was inside sales account manager.
Who was that professor?
Dudley Blossom.
Yeah.
Yep. Great guy.
Yeah. Good. Melissa?
Sure. So my experience at Keene State was a little different than I'm assuming most of you. I actually commuted. So I commuted from half an hour away, and I came to class. So I didn't really get the full college experience. If I could go back, I wish I could do that. So I commuted, and I didn't really take advantage of a lot of the offers on campus. So academic and career advising, for example. I wish I had done that, but instead, I got a full-time job. So I actually worked at a local grocery store and went to school, because I thought that the only way to get a job is experience, right? So I didn't really think about an internship. I didn't think that that was necessarily for me for some reason, which it totally is, so don't listen to that advice. I wish that I had taken advantage of more of those experiences. But I originally came to Keene State to actually be a teacher. I grew up outside of Boston, and I moved up here, my family moved up here, because Keene State's a great education school and teaching college. So I originally thought, I'm gonna be a kindergarten teacher and my life's gonna be great. And then second semester of junior year, great timing, I decided this isn't for me, and I changed my major to sociology. So I actually graduated with a sociology degree in 2012. But it was a journey. So going through school was a journey. As I was working at the grocery store, I learned a lot, and I learned that I want to stay in the area, so I wanted to put down roots in the Keene, the Monadnock region. So that kind of drove me to look for career options that were local. So I had already checked teaching off the list. I knew that's not something I was going to proceed with, but that left with a big open space of what do I fill that with, and I had no idea. So basically I took my experience from working at the grocery store and I said, what can I apply this to? And from speaking with my coworkers and speaking with just members of the community, I learned about CNS Wholesale Grocers, and I said, they're a pretty big company and they're local, so that kind of checked two of my boxes of what I knew I was looking for, and I decided to apply. So it's kind of how I ended up where I am. It was a journey for sure.
Thank you.
In preparation for this event, I was trying to think back to when I was a senior and what was going through my mind. I remember being really frantic and wanting, panicking, what am I going to do after graduation? And going to the career fair and met with someone from a bank and had interviewed for this banking job, and I initially wanted to be a substance abuse counselor. That was kind of what I was here for. So I just want to throw that out there. Don't rush into jobs if it's not something you want. There's no rush. But when I graduated, I took the summer off and tried to get my bearings. And my wife and I were moving to Brattleboro and I didn't have a job yet, and I was kind of waiting to hear back from a prospective employer, which was the Brattleboro Retreat. And when I heard back, they said, we want to pull you in for an interview, and I interviewed for a program that was for, a residential program that was for children, and they said, you're hired, we're going to get the paperwork done. And once we got to Brattleboro, they called and said, okay, you can come in for your first day, and they gave me the address. It was a totally different program. There was a mix-up with the paperwork, and I thought, this could be fun, why not? And so I went for it, and ended up meeting a therapist there, and got really close with the therapist. And about a year and a half in, the therapist said he was going to leave and go to the Greenwood School where I work now, and wanted to bring me with him. So he said he would let me know if there were any options open. And I was a mental health worker at the retreat, so I was just kind of on the ground working with the students. And when he did go to Greenwood, he said there's a position open for evening team member, so you'll work nightly with about 50 students. And I said, I don't really want to do an evening schedule. So he said, okay, I'll leave it open. And then there was a position that just randomly opened up for Director of Residential Life, and he reached out to me. And that's how I got this job.
How long have you been in your current job?
3 years.
Thanks. Great.
Jeff worked in academic and career advising.
That's right. Utilize ACA.
We took good care of him.
What, just thinking back on your time here, what do you think helped you the most in terms of preparing for your career, and what might you do differently if you were to go back in time?
I would say working at ACA, I had so much help. So that was huge for preparing me. What I would probably do differently is lean a little more on my mentors that I'd had around campus, my advisors. I probably didn't do that as much as I should have, and I think that would have been.
Your faculty, faculty advisors?
Yeah, I think that would have been beneficial.
Why do you think you didn't do it?
I don't know. It's a good question.
I mean, was it a matter of it didn't occur to you to do it, or were you afraid to do it, or what advice would you give these guys when they're thinking about that and knowing what you know now?
Yeah, I would say just do it. I think it didn't feel pertinent to me at the time. It didn't feel like it was going to be that important. But to use those connections, I didn't realize now how important connections are, and that's kind of how I got the job now, is networking. And so use the networks that you build here to get to your next step.
Thank you. Brendan?
So I was on campus. I guess I was like super involved in a lot of different like organizations that had almost nothing to do with each other, and that gave me a lot of learning about just like negotiating and like talking with different groups when you need to get things done with even like smaller organizations on campus. That was very interesting when having to deal with like student government, and if you're still with student government, you deal with a lot of other organizations all at once. So that was like a lot of learning. So I like to learn, and I like to like know as much as I possibly can. So then I studied economics, which is kind of the study of like everything. So that all kind of plays into it. And then one day we got a email about an internship for data cleansing at CNS, and this was last April, so like super like not that long ago. And I'm imagining I was like, at least we got this email, I applied like immediately because I know that you just have better chances if they see your name first. And I knew I would like to at least explore the field of data, because I think it's very interesting. It sounds boring, but it's kind of like solving mysteries and like figuring out where numbers came from, where they can go, and finding efficiencies. I know that all sounds boring, but it's pretty interesting. It's like a lot of puzzles. And I'm also like growing up very bad at puzzles, very bad at math. I'm the type of person who likes to like conquer things they're bad at, so like that all plays into that. And then the internship ended up being like a very good experience. They not only the job itself was pretty user-friendly, but around the job, like CNS does a really good job of making sure like you can talk to whoever you want, you can be in seminars, you know, talking about different aspects of the job. And the thing with CNS is there's so many different jobs, like Melissa's in talent planning, which is, or talent and learning, which is like so different than, there's a very eclectic group of jobs that are in the logistics, so you can kind of bounce around. And from there, a job opened up on the financial planning team, and that seemed like, you know, read the description, and that seemed to like fit what I was looking to at least like try. And that's kind of where I am right now. It's just, you know, I'm a year in, so I'm really finding my footing and, you know, making relationships and really like learning the business. And yeah, so that's kind of how I got here.
Thanks. So you're hearing a few themes here, right? So internships, right? Incredibly important because it gives you real experience, and that can help you. You guys tell me if you think I'm wrong with this, but that can help you get a better sense of where you might fit and what you like and what you don't like. It also gives prospective employers a chance to see what you've done outside of the classroom in a real working environment. Almost all, certainly in for-profit companies, internships are all paid. So if you think in the summer you have to choose between working at McDonald's and getting an internship, look for an internship, right? And you don't necessarily have to get credit during the summer, because I know you have to pay extra tuition for that. So from an employer's perspective, whether you're getting credit or not, it's real experience. They're going to think about that as an internship. So really, really think about that. And and in that context, another important theme here is networking. You guys all network now in your peer groups, right, with other students. You get to know people through your friends. So you can employ those same skills with your faculty, with staff in academic and career advising, when you go to the career fair, when you come to the Career Speaker Series events. The best way to get an internship, the best way to get a job, I mean, it's like a factor of something like 13 to 1, is through networking. You're way more likely to get an opportunity if somebody knows you than if you're just another resume in the inbox at Indeed or Monster.com or something like that, right? And as I lost my train of thought. I know what it was. People my age want to help students who are showing initiative, because we've all been there. And if you're showing initiative, if you're showing curiosity, if you're thinking, and if you are really engaged, that's the sort of thing that gets noticed. That's the sort of thing that that makes people want to reach out and help you, because when they help you, just think about it from their perspective. When they're helping you, they're putting their personal credibility a little bit on the line, right? So I'm going to recommend Alex to my friend Dan White at Florentine Films, because I know Alex is a hard worker, he's curious, he's creative, and he works well with people, right? He can solve problems. That's a lot of what you do in work. Anybody disagree with any of this, or anybody want to share like a personal experience that sort of fits that? Because this is all just me yammering, but you're the ones that have had the most recent experience on this.
I'll say for internships, internships are really like beyond getting your foot in the door at a company. Having a real job, especially if you're going like corporate, like it's super scary. It's not that hard to be really bad at your job, but it's really hard to be bad at an internship. It's like in a lot of cases, like it's, you know, there's not as much pressure put on you because you're you're an intern. So anything you contribute is maybe more than they were expecting, and so it's easier to stand out that way. And that was a big, like when I was getting into like the throes of my internship, I was like, oh, okay, I got this. Started meeting people, seeing familiar faces, and then once I got my job, I was like, oh wow, like thank God I had that internship because this is really hard and scary. Because like, you know, the first few weeks it's a lot, depending on what you're trying to do. But whenever pressures, especially maybe you're not expecting or whatever, when pressure's put on you, it's nice for the safety net or what have you of internships, because most internships are around education and even just getting like learning how to be professional in a meeting, that kind of thing. A lot of, like again, this is almost strictly, not strictly, but mostly like corporate, like businessy. There's a lot of things you just wouldn't think of, and it's a good way to pick up that sense is through an internship. When if you trip, no one's really watching. But you know, if you're sending reports out with a lot of wrong things and it's your job, it's much more terrifying.
So I've had conversations with CNS management about not about you specifically.
Yeah, I hope
That's all I need right now.
but with about the student. We have a lot of students at Keene State who are interning. Does anybody know anybody who's interning at CNS right now? There are quite a few students. Yeah. And the interns that get noticed are the ones that don't just do the job they're told to do, but are asking questions and saying, oh, I don't understand this, or I think maybe this means something, and you know, are exercising their initiative to go try to find out more, right? You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So the project that Brendan was talking about when he was speaking earlier, the data cleansing project, I actually manage that project now, and I hire all of the interns for that project. A lot of them come from Keene State, and absolutely, I couldn't agree more. The students that I'm looking for are the ones that are curious, and the ones that want to grow and want to develop themselves. As a manager, that helps me because I know that they already are interested in that. So I think you were very polite in saying that the work was easy. It's boring. So at least for my project,
yeah.
My project is boring. So it's my job to make sure that the Brendans of the world are getting exposed to a lot of different teams and what you were saying, exposure to the meetings and different settings, and how do you kind of navigate that? So absolutely, I mean, I think internships are hugely important and get you a wider view. And you could say, you know, I really didn't care for that, but I love this company. Or I love this internship, don't really love the culture of this company.
Yeah, another thing, I mean, I know the project that she's talking about, this data cleansing project, and yeah, it's boring. It's a repetitive. It's not that bad. It's a repetitive task, but it's an incredibly important repetitive task, and so, you know, finding out why you're doing what you're doing, and CNS has done a good job with their students about this. That actually helps. They're doing this because it's helping the company improve their forecasting. By improving their forecasting, they know how much ketchup to buy, how much water to buy, how many steaks to buy, etc. And so they've got enough to meet their orders, but not a whole lot sitting around getting old in the warehouse, right? That's really important for a company like that in terms of their profit. So the project that they're doing really is important. Even though the task at hand is boring, you're still learning a lot about the fundamentals, and that's really important. So, you know, it's inevitable that you will do something that you think is, my God, why would anybody in their right mind do this? But if you exercise the initiative to find out, well, why are they having me do this in the first place? What difference does it make to the company? Then that you can figure that out, and that's an important part of the learning. Let's see, so these guys have got the career fair coming up in 2 weeks. You found out about it 3 hours before it happened, right?
Yep.
If you had known about it 3 weeks before it happened, what would you have done? I mean, you were lucky, right? You got there
Yeah.
and you got a job.
Did everything
Yeah,
correctly.
so what'd you wear?
What did I wear?
Yeah,
I mean,
what would you wear? Maybe that's
what
what
would I? I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't have a jacket.
Yeah.
I think my dad helped me go shopping the week before that happened, so I think I got some nice clothes. Very lucky, very fortunate.
Yeah,
But I mean, I'm bringing a resume. Make sure I was very. I took a capstone in one of my geography courses, like that. You kind of structure your resume, make sure it's perfect and everything. So I already had that laid out. So other than I don't really know what I would do different, other than wish I knew earlier.
Anybody else want to jump in on this?
Yeah, I would say prepare questions.
Yeah.
So you're gonna stand out to any future employer tenfold if you prepare some questions ahead of time. I would say that would be something that I would do.
Yeah, so on that point, all of the companies at the career fair are listed on the ACA, links from the ACA website, right?
Director.
All the companies, their websites are there. So you can go through the companies, find out if there are any that interest you, go to their websites. If there's some that interest you, learn as much as you can about them. Really explore their websites and definitely come up with questions. The other thing I would really strongly recommend is when you go up, introduce yourself. Shake hands, do a firm handshake, look the people in the eye, right? Like this. Daniel Henderson, nice to meet you, right? Okay? That makes a big impression. Don't just mumble or say your first name. Give them your first and your last name. And try to engage them. Find out as much as you possibly can. This is your chance to find out. And when you're asking good questions, you're making an impression. Bring your resume. Get an appointment with academic and career advising. Make sure your resume is as good as you can make it. And yeah, Beth.
I just want to add, in addition to researching the companies on the directory, we have an intern in our office right now helping with the career fair, and she had a great idea. She has the recruiter's LinkedIn profile connected to the company that's recruiting. So not only can you ask the recruiter about the company, you can talk to the recruiter about herself or himself as well.
Yeah,
And that,
that's a great,
right,
that's a
if
great
somebody
idea.
comes up and starts saying, oh, Melissa, I see you've been at CNS for 6 years, tell me what makes this such a great company,
I'd be impressed.
Another really important thing is we have a number of alums representing companies at the both profit and nonprofit at the career fair, and that's a great introduction to a conversation as well.
Yeah. Does everybody have a LinkedIn account?
Instant connection.
Does anybody have a LinkedIn account? It's a great thing to do. It's the Facebook of the professional world, but don't treat it like Facebook. Because they're going to look, right?
Team, do you have workshops coming up soon?
We do. We have we have Resumania on the 20th and the 21st. This is the week after spring break. Rhodes Lobby from 12 until 5. It's a drop-in clinic for resume review. It's our professional staff as well as alumni who work closely with us. Yes, it's great. We see a lot of students at those events, and it kind of caters to our crazy schedules, our students' crazy schedules.
And we have two more LinkedIn workshops
yes,
coming up.
sorry.
One is March 28th. I know this because I just was showing somebody. One is on March 28th. I don't know what day that is. And I believe the other one is on April 10th. But if you go to, with these bookmarks, if you go to our webpage, on the right-hand side, you'll see events, and you just can click on the events, and the calendar's right there. It's from 4 to 5 in Rhodes, I believe. It's in the computer lab there, which I think is 121.
Just got Steve?
Alex?
Yeah.
And Jeff, I'm sorry, is it?
Yeah.
I was curious, you had sort of maybe more narrow majors and areas of study. Did you happen to go to career fair or other things like that just for the exposure of other companies or other fields, or would you recommend to students here that have a pretty, like a narrower field than business or finance or such?
I didn't go at all. When I was a student, I was pretty like uninvolved at every level. So I would go, if I could go back, I would go just to, you know, see other opportunities, because it wasn't always guaranteed for me to be in film, so that definitely would have helped.
Yeah, I went, and I would say definitely go. Even if you think you know exactly what you want to do and what your path should be, you just never know which opportunity is going to jump out at you. And the people there are really welcoming. I was blown away by that. I remember being really nervous when I was going in there, but they were really wanting you to just go and talk to them and eager to get to know you.
Can I ask a question of Alex? You described, I'm really impressed by your resiliency. Like you graduated and you applied and you applied and you applied.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people who are graduating, they may not be getting into Plan A immediately. So they're working on Plan B. So what kept you going? How did you kind of manage that time and kept you going to pursue what you wanted to do?
Okay, so I still had a couple of courses that summer, so I was still occupied by school, and I was working at Hanford at the time.
Okay.
And I just felt like I had the skills, and I knew I could do what they were asking in their internship program, and I thought I was a really good candidate, so I did not, I was just very persistent. They weren't denying me in the sense that, like, oh, we don't want you at all. They were just saying, we're full right now, we can't take you. So I could have easily just been like, I'm not pursuing this anymore, but it's something that I wanted to do, so I pursued it until they did have a vacancy.
And Alex, your internship was unpaid.
It was unpaid, it's paid now.
And you continued working at Hannaford's while you were?
For like 2 months, and then I stopped working completely.
Okay.
And was just doing that. I started, after about 3 months, it started to be more, started 3 days a week, and then it was 4 days a week, and slowly I kind of crept into employment, snuck my way in.
Okay. And you were paid at that point? You
Yeah.
made your way into employment?
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Mike?
Was Florentine, is Florentine for-profit?
No,
It wasn't, that's how come you could work for free all the time.
correct.
Because then you can work for free for nonprofits.
Yeah, they've changed their policy, they're paying their interns now, which also means they're taking fewer interns, but they are paying them. I don't know how much they're paying them, but boy, a lot of internships that I hear about pay $10 an hour, $15 an hour, some more than that. So not earning money is not a reason. There are a lot of negatives in this. Not a reason to not pursue an internship. If you follow that logic, it's a little twisted.
And also, if you're not getting paid, it means you probably are getting a ton of training. So if you're going to some place, because the legal, and if you provide more value than the company does, they do have to pay you for profit. So if you're, like I know my daughter went to a sports internship, which is for profit, and she did this whole thing for non-paid, but she was getting so much training that it was truly worth it. Plus you get your
How about the students here? Who's got questions? So you guys are all ready for the career fair? Is everybody got a resume? Does anybody not have a resume? Put your hand up if you don't have a resume. Okay. Put your hand up if you're going to get an appointment with academic or career advising to work on your resume. Okay. 82500. 358-2500. Call and get an appointment, and do it now, because if you wait till the day before, you won't get an appointment.
I would say,
What year are you? Any first year students here?
Yeah. Any first year? Oh, great.
Second year?
Good for you.
Juniors? Seniors?
I have a question for Alex. So how long exactly did
have student loans then, or?
I did, yeah. I saved a lot of money, and I moved back home with my parents, because my parents lived outside of Keene, so I was not paying rent anymore, and I had enough money saved, and there was a couple side jobs that I did here and there. I wasn't steadily employed, but there were a couple freelance things that I kept myself busy and was able to just have enough money to kind of focus my energy there instead of taking up the time just working at a grocery store.
Yeah, yeah.
For Alex, you're a social studies major, you said?
Film studies.
I'm sorry. For you.
So I just wanted to know, like, if you guys plan on staying with the companies that you're with, and like, if you like your jobs and stuff.
Good question. What's next?
So I love my job. Florentine is really small. It's not corporate at all. It's the furthest thing from corporate. It's laid back, but we get our work done. You know, it's a job. The thing with film is it's not guaranteed. So we're contracted basically project to project. We're working on a film right now, and we just had a meeting this past week that after this film is done, when we're done doing the editing at the end of this year, there's going to be an indefinite hiatus. So it's looking like I'm not going to be there for too much longer. They don't know how long the hiatus is going to be. They've kind of said between 6 months, a year and a half. So I'm kind of looking more towards the future now and what I'm going to be doing, because it's a project by project thing, and there's not a lot of film in the area. I think Florentine's the only thing really in the area. Like I said before, it's all New York, LA. So I'd like to stay, but I don't think that I can. I personally don't think I'll be able to make it work. So.
One good thing about having worked at Florentine Films is that it is a extremely well-known and well-respected organization, so you have a huge leg up.
Yeah. Get a couple good letters or recommendations.
Yeah. How about others of you? I did want to switch to sort of the idea of switching from being a student to going into the working world, and have each of you guys talk about that a little bit, how it's been, and what you've learned, and what advice you can offer these guys.
So it's definitely, it's pretty scary once you're a senior and you're kind of ending, you're graduating, and just kind of, it is a real deal. You're in school for a reason, so it's time to work that full-time job, which might not be as appetizing as, school or hanging out on the weekends. But for me, I secured an apartment with one of my buddies. I lucked out. He actually asked me if I wanted to live with him, and I just kind of said yes. I do drive like an hour and 15 to work, but back to your question, I love my job, so I don't have a problem doing that whatsoever. You just really gotta get mentally focused for it. You gotta have a positive attitude. Kind of when it's your first day, you just kind of start, you gotta be like a sponge. You gotta soak up as much as you can. It's a lot of material thrown at you, but keeping that positive mentality is the best advice I can give you.
Yeah, so to answer your question, I don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon. My career at CNS has been also a journey. I've had about 6 to 7 different roles in the last 5 years that I've been at CNS, and 3 of them are promotions. So one good thing about CNS is the growth opportunities, which Brendan alluded to earlier. In terms of advice, anytime you're going to a meeting, bring a pad of paper and a pen. It's kind of a joke at CNS, but always be prepared. And it is extremely important, and don't limit yourself. So I think being honest with yourself, I was honest with myself about teaching. That wasn't something that I was going to pursue anymore, and I pursued different avenues, which I think led me to where I am now. So that's another piece of advice. And finally, start thinking about building your own brand. So that's something that I wish I had thought about sooner, but decide how you want to present yourself when you do figure out what that career path is for you. I think that's really important because when you're new in a career, it's very easy to just kind of be a chameleon and figure out, well, this person acts like this, so I'm going to act like that. Be true to yourself and build your own professional and personal brand. Yeah, another piece of advice.
To answer that question, I love where I work. It's interesting working at a boarding school because everybody lives there. And so it's just kind of turns into this little community and you're always around each other and it's just got this really great atmosphere. So I'll stay as long as they'll keep me. Hopefully a while. Yeah, it's just so interesting graduating and that anxiety of needing a job, feeling like you're needing a job. I would say just really keep your options open. Somebody said don't limit yourself. I think that's huge. You don't want to limit yourself. If there's something that comes your way that seems doable, I would say take it. And when you are at a job, finding mentors is huge. So networking is big, but finding mentors, because it is really easy to just stay quiet and try to slip by. But if you want to be able to find mentors to show you the ropes, and especially in my field, my first job at the retreat, it was really different than anything I'd ever done, and so latching on to people to help me through it was really important.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Nobody knows everything, and asking for help, that point was made earlier, being willing to ask for help. You're not expected to know everything. You'll never be expected to know everything. You will be expected to figure out where to find the answers. So whether you have them yourself or not, or think you might have them, or think maybe there's more than one answer, or different perspectives, that's a sign of strength. That's not a sign of weakness. Brendan?
Yeah, so I've been with CNS for like 11 months. That's pretty early to make any decisions, but I really like where I am. And I guess like a good part of starting as early as possible when I started my job, like the literal Monday after the Saturday I graduated, which there is a lot. I was always afraid of losing momentum. And I feel like that can happen. And I like New Hampshire as opposed to where I used to live, so that's kind of why I'm here right now. But I wouldn't ever limit myself to any opportunity ever, especially now. Like it can be almost scary when you're freshly graduated. When you land your job, every opportunity is open for you, and that sounds amazing, but it's actually kind of scary because anytime you make a decision, like the door closes. So you want to be really smart about the doors you walk through and the timing of it all. So for now, I'm super happy at CNS, and I have no plan to go anywhere. But again, like I would never limit myself to any one thing. And the other thing is you don't want to jump around too much. So that's a big thing. Is don't rush into a job. I got lucky that I really like my job. But I had a lot of friends who rushed into jobs because they felt they had to and lasted a month, which I think if you do that once, but if you're doing that like every 3 to 6 months, it'll be harder and harder, I think, to get your foot in the door. I know that's kind of a lot of things.
Yeah, so that brings up the point about company cultures or organizational cultures. They all have them. And so Florentine Films has a very different cultural organization than CNS. Much more artistic, much smaller. Sort of moving from project to project and not employed, working under contract is very different than a $24 billion company with offices and operations all over the country. So, one point about what Brendan is doing is he could move to a different place and stay with the same employer. you may be moving to a different place with a different employer.
Right.
So think about what kind of person you are and what kind of people you like to be around, and try to find out as much about organizations, not just what they do, but who are they? What are their values? What's it like to work there? Ask the people that work there. Ask the people that you meet at the career fair what it's like to work there. This is all important stuff. It's all fair game. I think we're getting close to the end here, but I want to make sure that there's an opportunity for you to ask any other questions before we wrap up. Also, I think these folks are willing to stick around for a few minutes, so if anybody wants to come and have a one-on-one conversation, speaking of that turn, great. So go to the career fair, get your resume straight. You don't have to wear a suit, but do wear clean clothes and present yourself as well as you can, and take advantage of the opportunity. And let's thank the panel for taking the time.
And one more thing while we're all here together. Daniel, I would like to pass Olivia the Golden Owl on to you.
Oh.
Staff recognition award gets passed around.
Thank
I
you.
think you're much deserving for things like this. And also,
Thank you.
know that Daniel is active all around the state, advocating for Keene State College as a major workforce development institution, not only in the Monadnock region, but the state as a whole. So that's why I'm passing that on.
Thank you. And I think there are 5 more events, obviously not next week because it's vacation, but every Tuesday at 6 o'clock. After that until I think about the 20th of April, we'll be having different events here in this room. So come take advantage of them, and I'm planning the fall right now. So for those of you who aren't graduating, there'll be more and different things next semester. But I want to ask you before we leave: is stuff like this helpful to you?
Absolutely.
Good. Tell your friends. Bring a friend next time, okay, or 2, because it's here, it's on the campus, it's free, and these are the people who are out there doing what you might be doing in 2 or 3 or 4 years, and it's a great chance to get ahead of the thought process on that. So thank you all for coming. Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks.
Everyone wants to.
Yeah.